Bone-chilling secrets of our new house. The unseen shadows haunt us. When the Johnson family moved into their new house, they thought they were stepping into a dream. The quaint white picket fence, the big oak tree in the yard, and that charming red door seemed like the perfect backdrop for a fresh start. But little did they know, this wasn't just any house. Whispers of dark secrets lingered in the corners, waiting to unveil themselves in the dead of night. From the very first evening, a chill hung in the air, creeping through the hallways like a ghostly mist. The creaks of the floorboards echoed louder than laughter, as if the house itself was breathing, watching. The kids noticed it first. Emma, with her wide hazel eyes, felt prickles crawling along her spine every time she passed the unused guest room. "Mom, there's a cold spot in there," she insisted, shivering at the mere thought of it. Just then, Sam, her younger brother, claimed he saw a flickering light in the window, but when they rushed to check, the room lay still, cloaked in shadows. As night crept in, the atmosphere thickened. Doors clicked shut on their own. Whispers danced around the living room like a forgotten melody. The family gathered in the kitchen, their laughter drowning out the odd sounds. But the unease weighed heavily in the air. Outside, clouds shrouded the moon, intensifying the sense of dread. "Did you hear that?" Jake, the dad, asked, his voice low. It came again soft, like the sigh of someone longing to be seen. Or was it something more sinister? Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The silence that followed was thick, almost suffocating. Just as they thought it was over, the front door swung open with a groan, despite no one standing near it. Emma's heart raced. She could barely swallow, let alone speak. Could there be something lurking in the shadows? It dawned on them then. Their pleasant home was shrouded in secrets. But as they stood there, trembling and wide-eyed, ready to flee deeper into the house, the air shifted. A fleeting shape darted past the hallway, disappearing into the darkness. "Did you see that?" Sam cried out, a mixture of fear and excitement flooding his features. The looming question hung over them. Was it a trick of the eyes? Or were they not alone in the place they thought would keep them safe? The whispers grew louder, daring them to discover the truth. But were they ready to confront the bone-chilling realities of what lived within those walls? The excitement in the room faded, replaced by an electric tension. Jake exchanged wary looks with his wife, Sarah, who clutched her mug tightly, knuckles white. Emma held Sam's hand, the softness of her brother's grip unable to calm the storm brewing in her heart. "Let us check it out," Jake finally said, squaring his shoulders, attempting to mask the tremor in his voice. Sarah's eyes widened. "Are you sure that's wise? We can't let fear dictate our lives, right?" He replied, though his voice held a questioning edge. The kids were frozen, caught between their curiosity and instinct to retreat. Slowly, they ventured toward the hallway. The shadows seemed to stretch and bend under the flickering light from the kitchen. With each step, the house creaked beneath them like a ship at sea. Emma swallowed hard. The cold spot she had sensed earlier now pulsed, an entity beckoning her closer. Sam tugged at Emma, his eyes darting nervously. What if it's just a raccoon or something? The thought had crossed Emma's mind, but deep down, she knew this felt different. Something was watching them. She could feel it. "Stay close," Jake warned, leading the way. As he stepped into the hallway, an overwhelming chill enveloped them. The air thickened, making it hard to breathe. A door creaked farther down the hall, swinging open slowly, as if inviting them in. "Maybe it's just the wind," Sarah whispered, though her voice lacked conviction. "Yeah, or an old door just acting up," Emma added, but even she didn't believe her words. The flickering light caught her attention again, but this time, it felt almost alive. Taking a deep breath, Jake strode toward the guest room, the shadows seeming to pull back just slightly, exposing the glint of an old brass doorknob. He paused at the threshold, heart pounding against his chest. Should we look inside? The kids exchanged terrified glances while Sarah hesitated. I don't think we should. What if it's just what, Sarah? Old junk? Or something worse? Jake snapped, frustration flashing through his eyes. He took a bold step inside, the creak of the floor echoing ominously. The room was dim, the air thick with dust and something more sinister. As Jake scanned the surroundings, he noticed something strange, a series of old pictures hanging on the walls, their glass frames cracked but still reflecting faint flickers of movement. In the center, an aged portrait of a woman with hollow eyes watched him. There was something odd about her expression. It felt alive and yet vacant. Look, Emma squeaked, pointing to a strange shimmer emanating from a corner. It flickered, creating waves in the air, like a mirage. Jake stepped closer, drawn in, but just before he could touch it, a loud bang shook the room, slamming the door closed behind them. They were trapped. The air turned frigid, and whispers filled the tiny space, overlapping like a cacophony of voices from beyond the grave. A startling chill raced down Emma's spine as she pressed against Sam, who gasped, eyes wide with terror. What's happening? Sam choked out, his small voice barely cutting through the growing panic. Jake turned toward the door, pounding against it in desperation. Let us out. Let us out. The whispers intensified, forming a jagged symphony of anguish and fear. The portrait of the woman seemed to smile, her eyes glinting with dark knowledge. In that moment, Emma realized they had not just stumbled into a house, they had invaded a memory, a secret longing to be revealed. What awaited them in the darkness? Were they strong enough to uncover what lay hidden, or would the shadows consume them whole? And then, from the edge of the silence, a single, haunting whisper curled around Emma's heart. You shouldn't have come here. The walls of the room pulsed with the whispers, each breath of sound wrapping around Emma's throat like a vice. Panic surged, yet within that rush, something deeper flickered, a hint of curiosity mingled with dread. Jake, Sarah pleaded, her voice rising. You need to get us out of here. The door held firm, unyielding to their desperate pounding. As Jake continued to strike it with his fists, splintering the silence like glass, the air thickened further, stretching the boundaries of fear into a palpable suffocation. It won't budge, Jake shouted, stepping back, frustration morphing into desperation etched on his face. The flickering light from the corner shimmered in response, each wave casting eerie shapes on the dusty floor. Emma felt the pull. It was hypnotic, contagious. You can't be serious, Sarah's voice trailed off, watching her husband, her fear shifting to worry, a storm brewing in her eyes. Jake took a hesitant step towards the shimmer. What if it's don't you dare? Emma shouted before she could stop herself, instinctively grabbing Sam's arm. It's dangerous. But Jake wasn't listening. He reached out, fingers stretching into the light like a flower seeking the sun. It flickered, brightening, then dimming, as if the house itself was holding its breath. Get away from there, Sarah cried, and her voice cut through the thick air like a knife. The sudden urgency jolted Jake back, and the moment his hand recoiled, the light died. The room plunged into shadow once more, silence enveloping them, save for the echo of their own breaths, quickening with each passing second. Then, with a low groan, the door rattled. It felt as if the entire house had made the noise, bone creaking against bone. A shadow flickered past the edges of Jake's vision. He turned sharply, but nothing stood there. Just the eerie gaze of that portrait still smiling, still watching. Emma's chest tightened. The whispers returned, now louder, pleading, intertwining with anguish as if trying to pull them into an unseen world. What do they want? She whispered, her voice shaky. I don't know, Jake said, his expression turning serious. But we have to find a way out, fast. Suddenly, the whispering shifted, one clear voice rising above the rest. Seek the truth, find the key. What does that mean? Sam murmured, confusion mixed with fear. Emma spotted a nearby cabinet, partially hidden in shadows. Its wooden surface seemed warped and aged, but the brass handle gleamed faintly. Wait, over there, she cried, pointing. Sarah began, but Emma was already moving, pulled by instinct, heart hammering. Let us check it out. We have to find the truth. The cabinet door swung open easily, a small cloud of dust bursting forth, momentarily clouding their vision. Inside lay an assortment of old bones, scattered like forgotten relics, a chilling sight that almost made Emma's stomach heave. But amidst them, something sparkled, a key, tarnished yet holding a promise of escape. That's it, Jake exclaimed, reaching for it. Just as his fingers closed around the cool metal, the walls of the house shuddered. The whispers rose in frenzy, pleading, crying out in unison, anguished wails that reverberated through their bones. Do not touch it. It's cursed. Fear enveloped Emma. But the key felt different, powerful. Just let me think, Jake murmured, every muscle thrumming with anxiety. The air pulsed dangerously, sensing the weight of the key's history. Then, like a dam breaking, chaos erupted. The whispers crashed together, merging into incomprehensible screams as shadows twisted around them. And all at once, the room was alive. Jake, hold on, Emma shrieked, but their world spun, the walls crashing in, shadows reaching toward them like clawing hands. What secrets did the key unlock? Would it lead them to safety, or deeper into the abyss of the house's haunting memories? And there, in the eye of that chilling storm, they stood on the brink of revelation. Emma felt an overwhelming surge of energy pulse through the room, tightening her chest and pulling at her senses. The cacophony of screams chimed in rhythm with her heartbeat, each note resonating like a funeral bell. She clutched Sam's arm tighter, her nails digging into his skin as if to anchor herself. Jake, she called, her voice nearly swallowed by the darkness. What are we going to do? But Jake seemed transfixed by the key, his expression a mix of fear and intrigue. I think it's asking me to use it, he murmured. His eyes locked onto the tarnished metal that glinted ominously under the flickering light. Ask it what? Sarah shouted above the rising tide of noise, fear transforming her face into a mask of desperation. It's just a key, Jake. We need to get out of here. No, Jake snapped, shaking his head. It's not just a key. It's itself connected to this place. His grip tightened around the key, and for a fleeting moment, the screaming subsided, replaced by an almost soothing hum that reverberated through the air. Without warning, the shadows flared and surged forward, a wild, surging darkness that felt like fingers clawing their way toward Jake. Emma gasped and pulled at Sam, dragging him back. It's too late, Jake shouted, his voice thick with resolve. I have to try. Jake, don't, Sarah screamed, but it was too late. He took a step towards the locked door, brandishing the key in front of him as if it could fend off the shadows. The moment the brass touched the door, a shock wave erupted, shattering the suffocating silence. The door sprung open in a violent rush, sending wood shards flying. Light poured into the room in blinding waves. Emma squinted against it and then, standing in the threshold, she saw another figure. A girl no older than 12, her eyes wide and hollow, a shimmering glow surrounding her. Help us, the child whispered, her voice eerie yet tender. You must help us, release us. What is happening? Emma could barely get the words out as panic clawed at her throat. Who are you? The girl turned, her shadow stretching and merging with the swirling darkness. The key holds the truth, she said cryptically, her image flickering like a faulty light bulb. Seek the truth to escape, but beware, not all truths set you free. Before Emma could respond, the girl vanished into the light, leaving behind a chilling silence and a shiver racing down Emma's spine. The walls vibrated with whispers again, dark chords of sorrow creeping back into the room. Did you see that? Emma asked breathlessly, her heart racing. Yeah, Jake said, still visibly shaken, but the determination burned in his eyes. We need to follow her. She knows something about the key. But what if it leads us into danger? Sarah questioned, fear etched deep in her features. "This house is already a danger," Jake replied, his voice steadier now. "If we don't take the risk, we'll never get out. We need to find her." As they stepped into the light, a heavy thrum pulsed in the ground beneath them. The threshold seemed to breathe, swallowing their hesitation as they crossed from one world into another. With every step taken, the whispers grew louder, swirling around them, fluctuating between anger and sorrow. A sudden flash of images invaded Emma's mind, faces twisted in anguish, shadows dancing in the periphery, and the girl's eyes begging for release. "What are we walking into?" Sam's voice trembled as they ventured deeper into the house. Ahead, the hall folded like a dark tunnel, enveloping them in a heavy fog, cold and biting. Every instinct screamed at Emma to turn back, but the compulsion to uncover the truth gripped her. What awaited them at the end of this dark path? Would they find the secrets buried within this house? Or would they unleash something more sinister? The sound of the twisted whispers intertwined with the echo of their racing hearts, leading them into the unknown. They moved cautiously down the fog-drenched hallway, each step echoing with a hollow thud that only heightened their mounting dread. Emma felt every inch of the cold floor beneath her sneakers, the chill seeping through and wrapping around her bones as the whispers pressed against her ears like a cacophony of forgotten souls. "Do you feel that?" Sam murmured, glancing at Emma with wide eyes. The shadows danced along the twisting walls, as if alive, inching closer with each beat of their anxious hearts. "Yeah," Jake said, his voice steady but strained. "It's like the house is watching us." Emma shivered. She wanted to believe this was just a nightmare, a bad dream induced by the darkness around them. But the fear in her chest was too real, too consuming. As they pressed on, images of the girl flashed unbidden in her mind. Who was she? What happened to her? The questions gnawed at Emma as time slipped away. Suddenly, a door creaked to their left, the sound sharp and jarring. The group paused, hearts pounding, breaths held. A sliver of muted light spilled out into the hallway, beckoning them with an otherworldly glow. "Should we go in?" Sarah whispered, barely able to contain the quiver in her voice. Jake hesitated, then nodded. "We need answers." He reached for the doorknob, his fingers trembling as they wrapped around its cool metal. "Wait." Emma grabbed his arm, pulling him back as a vision of the girl's desperate plea flashed before her. "What if it's a trap?" "We'll never know unless we look," Jake countered, determined. He turned the knob and pushed the door wide open, revealing a dimly lit room that seemed to breathe in unison with the house. Dust motes swirled in the air like tiny specters. Inside, the room was lined with bookshelves that towered toward the ceiling, the volumes covered in layers of dust and shadow. A large, intricate mirror captured the glowing light, reflecting fragments of their frightened faces in twisted, distorted ways. "Whoa," Sam breathed, stepping inside. The silence wrapped around them, thick and sticky, as if the room was a vacuum. As they moved further into the room, a chill swept through, making Emma's breath hitch in her throat. The air changed, electric and charged. A sudden rustle came from the far corner, near a heavy wooden desk, sending their hearts racing. "I swear I heard something," Sarah whispered, her voice barely above a trembling breath. "Is anyone there?" Jake called, forcing the confidence he didn't feel. Silence answered, heavy and suffocating. Then, without warning, the mirror caught their attention again, pulsating with a strange energy. Emma stepped closer, entranced. The surface flickered, revealing ghostly images, faces twisted in agony, mouths frozen in silent screams. "What the hell?" Sam murmured, stepping back slightly. Emma's heart raced as she glimpsed the girl again, her figure clearer this time, standing in front of a shadowy door, a silent scream stretching across her face. "What is this?" Emma gasped, the realization hitting her like a slap. It's showing us the past. Each of these faces, they need help," Jake said, eyes wide as he began to connect the dots. "The key, a part of this. We have to find out why." Suddenly, the mirror rippled violently as if something was trying to burst through. The whispers crescendoed into a deafening roar, drowning out their thoughts, drowning out their fear. Emma felt a pull, an insatiable urge to reach out, to touch the glass. "Don't!" Sarah screamed, but it was too late. Emma's fingers grazed the surface, and a blinding light enveloped them. In that moment, everything shattered into chaos, a violent explosion of sound and sight. Emma couldn't comprehend what was happening as she was yanked away from the room, caught in the undertow of the house's dark secrets. When the world stopped spinning, they found themselves in an entirely different room, closed off and suffocating. The weight of an unseen presence pressed down on them, thick with anticipation. "Now what?" Jake breathed, eyes darting around in panic. The darkness around them seemed to pulse, waiting for the answer to be revealed. What had they awakened? What force had they unleashed by touching the mirror? Emma's heart thudded, a mix of fear and determination. They were in too deep now. But before they could make sense of their surroundings, the whispering escalated once more, morphing into a desperate cacophony crying out for freedom. "What do we do now?" Sam asked, voice trembling as shadows loomed larger. "Whatever it is, we need to face it together," Jake replied, voice resolute despite the fear dancing in his eyes. As the darkness coiled around them, a single thought gnawed relentlessly at Emma's mind. The truth behind the key, the truth that would either liberate them or doom them all. But would they be brave enough to uncover it? The room pressed in around them, oppressive and heavy with the weight of whispers that clawed at their minds. Emma could feel a cold sweat bead at her brow, her heart racing in a frantic rhythm. Shadows twisted and lurked at the edges, as if waiting for a chance to strike. "Stay close," Jake whispered, paranoia squeezing his voice. The group huddled together, forming a fragile barrier against the encroaching darkness. Emma locked eyes with Sarah, a question hanging in the air: were they really prepared for whatever lay ahead? Without warning, a loud bang echoed from the corner, and Emma jumped, adrenaline surging through her. A wooden trunk, worn and weathered, had toppled over. The lid cracked open just enough to reveal a tangle of dust and ancient relics inside. "Guys, look!" Sam pointed, urgency sparking in his eyes. Emma cautiously approached, drawn in by an inexplicable compulsion. The trunk felt both familiar and foreign, like a puzzle piece that could potentially unlock everything. When she knelt beside it and peered inside, the flickering light from the mirror ignited something in her memories of photograph. She dug through the brittle papers, revealing a picture of a smiling girl, the very same girl they had seen in the mirror. This is her." Emma gasped, holding it up. "What's her name?" Sarah asked, her expression a mix of hope and fear. The name written on the back didn't just echo in Emma's mind. It slammed against her consciousness like a hammer. "Lucy," she whispered, the name tasting bitter on her tongue. The whispering around them intensified, swirling into an agonizing wail, as if Lucy herself was calling out from some dark abyss. "What do you want, Lucy?" Emma shouted, her voice ringing back in the silence, fierce yet tremulous. In response, the shadows swirled faster, gathering into a dense mass that flickered with ghostly light. Then, the air shifted. It grew colder, so much colder. Emma shivered, drawing her arms around herself. Then they saw it, a faint outline of a door emerging from the other side of the room, a door that hadn't been there moments before. It seemed to pulse, its presence demanding, pulling them in like a moth to a flame. "I'm not going near it," Sam said, backing away, fear etched on his face. "The girl needs us," Jake insisted, stepping forward despite trembling knees. "We can't just leave her, or we could be walking into a trap," Sarah countered, glancing nervously at the door. "We don't know what's on the other side." The group fell silent, the tension suffocating. Emma's pulse thundered in her ears. Each passing second felt like a countdown. What if this was their chance to save Lucy? Or what if it was their demise? "We have to decide now," Jake urged, the desperation in his voice palpable. "We can't let fear stop us." With a deep breath, Emma stepped forward. "I'm going," she declared, her voice steady despite the fear curling in her stomach. "I can feel she's here. I have to help her." "Wait." Sam grasped her arm, his eyes wide. "If she's trapped, we might end up trapped too. I'd rather be trapped than do nothing," Emma answered, her determination igniting like a spark. Without waiting for their response, she took the first step toward the door. The air rippled, casting shadows that danced wildly as she approached. Suddenly, the whispers rose into a fever pitch, the cacophony battering against her mind. Emma blinked against the onslaught, her heart racing with every step as her fingertips brushed against the door's surface. It swung open abruptly. Inside lay a pitch-black void that seemed to consume the light, a chasm of uncertainty. Emma could feel it calling her, pulling her in deeper. "Emma!" Jake shouted, panic threading through his voice. "Don't go in alone." But it was too late. The darkness enveloped her, and with a final gasp, the world around her vanished. Jake and Sarah stood frozen, staring into the abyss where Emma had disappeared. A single thought echoed in Sarah's mind: what had they unleashed? And would they have the courage to follow her into the unknown? As the shadows whispered promises of secrets and despair, Jake took a step forward, a flicker of bravado igniting. "We can't leave her behind." With that, the darkness surged around them, and they followed Emma into the unknown, where fear and determination twisted in dreadful harmony. What awaited them on the other side of the door? The moment Jake and Sarah stepped through the door, it felt like plunging into an icy sea. The darkness wrapped around them, thick and suffocating, as if they were drowning. A hum of despair echoed through the void, vibrating in their bones. "Can you see anything?" Jake whispered, his voice barely cutting through the oppressive silence. He reached out, hoping to find Sarah, but the shadows were greedier than his eyes could handle. "No, just darkness," Sarah replied, her breath shaky. Panic clawed at her throat. "Emma, can you hear us?" Nothing but the echo of their own voices answered. Just as despair threatened to pull them under, a wave of warmth surged through the black, continued darkness. An explosion of light erupted in the distance, a pale glow flickering like a dying ember. Both of them instinctively leaned toward it. They moved closer, letting the strange luminescence guide the way as they approached. The scene before them began to clarify: a room, eerily familiar yet different. The walls were lined with portraits, their eyes seeming to follow Jake and Sarah with a knowing sadness. In the center, a large ornate table was covered in what looked like relics, much like the trunk in the other room. And at the far end stood Emma, her back to them. The glow emanated from her, but it flickered like the last light of a candle about to extinguish. She didn't move but seemed absorbed in something on the table. "Emma!" Jake called again, urgency making his voice sharper. "What are you doing?" In an instant, Emma turned, her eyes wide with both fear and revelation. "It's her. I felt her here." "Lucy." Sarah's stomach dropped at the name. "What do you mean? Where is she?" Emma pointed at a glass case holding a single pale flower, its petals shimmering under the glow. "Lucia's flower. I can feel it. She's trapped in the memories. We have to break it." As she moved forward, shadows began to creep from the corners of the room, swirling around them with impatience. Jake felt a shiver creep up his spine. They weren't alone. "Emma, wait!" Jake shouted, trying to pull her back. "We don't know what will happen." But it was as if Emma was in a trance, her eyes glued to the delicate flower behind the glass. Each step she took made the shadows grow heavier, their whispers thickening into a cacophonous roar, twisting and turning like a storm. "Lucy, I can help you," Emma cried, her hand reaching for the glass. "No, don't touch it," Sarah yelled, sensing the change in the atmosphere. A low growl rose from the depths of the room, echoing the anger of the shadows. It was too late. As Emma's fingers brushed against the glass, a blinding light erupted, and time seemed to freeze. The room pulsated violently as shards of dark energy exploded outward. The portraits grimaced, their painted faces twisting in agony. Jake grabbed Sarah's hand, pulling her away from the chaos. "We need to leave, now." But as they turned to flee, the door had vanished, consumed entirely by the shadows. They were trapped. "Emma!" Jake shouted, panic flooding his veins. He turned back to see her caught in the center of a swirling vortex of darkness, the flower glowing brighter in a grave struggle between hope and despair. Help me, she screamed, desperation spilling over, her outstretched hand trembling against the tightening grip of shadows. Every heartbeat counted. They needed a plan, but the shadows surged forward, clawing at them with icy fingers. The air crackled with untold fury, growing ever more suffocating. As Sarah fought to comprehend the storm around them, a thought struck her. Jake, what if the flower is the key? Could be a way to reach Lucy. But before she could finish, the shadows lunged, hungry and relentless, wrapping around Emma tighter. Lucy, Emma cried, her voice breaking. Help us, please. Would Lucy hear her call through the veil of despair? And if she did, what would it mean for all of them? The whispers crescendoed into a deafening roar, intense, desperate, unforgiving, as the entire room began to shudder and warp. Quick, we need to find a way to calm them down, Jake urged, his heart pounding. As they raced against time, a shadowy figure took shape behind the violent maelstrom. What were they truly up against? And could they break free before the darkness consumed them all? The clock on the wall ticked louder, as if mocking their frantic situation. Each tick carried the weight of impending doom, echoing off the walls that seemed to close in on them. Shadows contorted, stretching with grotesque angles, swirling dangerously close to Emma's helpless form. Emma, fight it! You're stronger than this, Jake yelled, leaping forward, but the shadows lashed out, an unseen barrier preventing him from reaching her. He slammed against it, the impact sending ripples through the darkness. The murmur grew more frantic, a chorus of haunted voices spiraling around them, insistent and pleading. Sarah's chest tightened, fear clawing at her heart. What do? We can't just stand here. She turned to the table, the glass case holding the flower pulsating in time with their racing hearts. The flower is tied to Lucy. We have to get to it. Jake, panting, his mind racing with possibilities, finally nodded. If it's the key, we need to interact with it. But how? The shadows will attack. The air shimmered with tension as the shadows slithered closer. Each shattering whisper was suffused with longing for release, for their stories to be heard. Jake took a hesitant step back, willing the shadows to retreat, if only for a moment. I need to hold the flower, he said, determination solidifying in his voice. Sarah, I want you to grab Emma's hand. If we can pull her away together, what if we all get trapped? Better than losing her. With a shared glance of understanding, Sarah wrapped her fingers around Emma's twitching hand, bracing for what they were about to do. Jake edged closer, braving the encroaching shadows. The glass case glimmered as his heart thundered wildly in his chest. Snaking tendrils of darkness lashed out, demanding he turn back, but he pressed on. He touched the cold glass, feeling it hum beneath his fingertips, a heartbeat of its own. Lucy, he whispered, entranced. Don't, Emma cried, her voice swallowed by the chaos around them. A flicker of clarity shone in her eyes, but the shadows clung tight, siphoning away her strength. Ignoring the fierce pull of doubt, Jake closed his eyes, focusing on the warmth from within the flower. I'll break you free, Lucy. In that moment, a violent wave of energy surged as he pushed against the case, the glass vibrating with a frantic pulse. The flower flickered dangerously, illuminating the shadows, revealing forms twisted in anguish. Suddenly, a blinding light erupted, cascading around them. The voices intensified, a cacophony of pain and desperation roaring like a tempest. Jake could see faces emerging through the shadows, features etched with sorrow, eyes pleading for salvation. And then, a flash of recognition stopped him in his tracks. One face, brighter than the others, seemed to reach out. Lucy, he shouted, the name a lifeline thrown into the darkness. The air crackled with energy, felt electric. As Lucy's name was spoken, the shadows recoiled, opening a narrow path through the swirling turmoil. The flower glowed fiercely, pulsating in rhythm with Lucy's heart. Emma, Sarah, now, Jake yelled, adrenaline flooding his system. Sarah tightened her grip on Emma, her face set with determination. They surged forward together, hands joined, until they were right at the glass. With a concentrated shove, Jake pushed forward again, and the glass shattered. A rush of brilliant light engulfed them, illuminating every corner of the room. But in that pulse of radiance, a dark figure loomed larger than before, shrouded in shadows. Its eyes glinted like daggers, and an ominous growl echoed across the space. "Fools!" it boomed, drowning out their cries. "You think you can save her? You will join the darkness." Shivers raced down Jake's spine. What had they just unleashed? As the shadows lurked menacingly, they braced for the confrontation ahead. What lay beyond the brilliance of Lucy's presence? And would their united strength be enough to repel the encroaching darkness this time? The fight for freedom had just begun, and the stakes couldn't possibly rise higher. The light from the shattered glass pulsed like a heartbeat, filling the room with an unsettling brightness. For a fleeting moment, hope sprang alive. But as the dark figure advanced, its shadow stretching across the floor, that hope felt fragile and thin, like a spiderous web in a storm. "Stay together," Jake shouted, desperately clinging to the warmth of Sarah's hand. Feeling Emma's trembling fingers beneath their combined grip, they formed a barrier, a cocoon against the darkness that loomed. The figure twisted into view, its form shifting as if made of smoke and despair. "You think love can conquer me?" it hissed, each word laced with venom. "Love is a weakness. It will only draw you deeper into the void." The voices swirled again, louder this time, their tone a chaotic mix of cries and laughter, memories battling for dominance. "Lucy, save us," they echoed, a haunting melody that sent chills racing down Jake's spine. "Lucy," he called again, the name a beacon. "We're here for you." As if responding to his voice, something shimmered in the center of the flower. A faint figure began to emerge from the chaos, a silhouette looking almost familiar. It was Lucy, but she was translucent, flickering in and out like a dying star. Her eyes were wide, terror mixing with intense recognition. "Jake!" she cried, her voice barely cutting through the tumult. But at the same time, wisps of darkness reached out, wrapping around her form like a predator playing with its prey. "No!" Sarah screamed, pulling Emma closer as the shadows thrashed violently. "We can't lose her again." Jake took a bold step forward, regret boiling within his chest. He couldn't let fear bind them. "We can save her. Together we fight." He squeezed Sarah's hand tighter, encouraging her to stand firm. "On three we pull her back. 1, 2, 3. With all their strength, they yanked Emma away and surged toward the shimmering form of Lucy. In that same breathtaking moment, as if the shadows sensed their determination, the dark entity lunged forward. Its claws of shadow grasped for them, but the flower blazed brighter, illuminating every inch of the haunted space. The figure halted, agitating violently, as if caught in a storm of its own making. "Fools!" spat, shaking with rage. "You think you can defy me? You don't know what lies ahead." A shower of shadows enveloped them, pouring over like frigid water. Jake felt the chill creep through him, numbing his senses. The outlines of the room warped, twisted, and spun, like a carousel gone dangerously wrong. "Hold on," he shouted, panic pulsing in his veins. They were all trembling, caught between the dark and the light, every breath heavy with dread. The need to break free surged in him as he pushed ahead. "We won't give in. We won't." Suddenly, Emma gasped, her eyes flickering with recognition. "Lucy, I see you." Her trembling voice grew stronger, cutting through the darkness around them. "Fight. You have to fight." The shadows recoiled momentarily, a furious growl erupting from the dark figure. "No, you will not take her from me." It lunged, a whirlwind of darkness and despair, intent on swallowing them whole. Jake looked into Lucy's shimmering eyes, hopeful and terrified. "We're with you," he cried, channeling every ounce of conviction he could muster. "You can break free." There was a heartbeat of silence, a moment where time stretched, as the dark entity hesitated, wavering before them. Then, with a deafening roar, it charged, heart racing. Jake prepared for the reckoning. Would their bond be strong enough to fend off the encroaching darkness? Or had they unleashed a force beyond anything they'd ever imagined? As the shadows lunged, they braced for impact, ready to face the unknown. But Lucy's voice, rich and vibrant, echoed in the stillness. Together and with that, a surge of unexpected energy ignited within them all, the promise of something remarkable crackling in the air. What would happen when they faced the darkness side by side? The chaos erupted like a thunderstorm, darkness swirling and raging, clawing at them from every direction. Yet amidst the tempest of shadows, a shimmering light blossomed from Lucy, illuminating the room with a soft yet fierce glow. Jake felt its warmth brush against his skin, a reminder that hope had not yet vanished. Together, Lucy's voice rang clearly, resonating in their hearts. With that single word, courage rushed through the trio like a jolt of electricity. The shadows writhed, as if the essence of their unity disrupted the darkness, making it recoil in fury. In that moment, everything changed. The shadowy figure hesitated, flickering between forms, unsure of its next move. "You think you can bind us with your weak emotions?" It hissed, fury simmering in its tone. "Love is a chain. It will only entrap you further." "No," Emma shouted, her voice strong and resolute. Clutching Lucy's fading glow in her heart, she stepped forward defiantly, refusing to be swayed. "Love is strength. We are not afraid of you," the entity screamed, rage pouring from it like a waterfall of blackness. The whispers crescendoed into a dreadful roar, but their combined light pierced through the din, a silent promise against despair. Jake turned to Sarah, his eyes fierce with determination. "We have to channel everything we've got," he urged. "Feel the light, share it with each other and with Lucy." They linked their hands, grounding themselves in the moment. Emma squeezed Sam's hand, her heart pounding in synchrony with the rhythm of fading whispers. "Lucy, we remember you." Each word was a pledge, a promise of solidarity. Together, they shouted in unison, their voices merging into a powerful chorus that resonated through the room. The shadows faltered, wavering like a candle flickering in the wind. Lucy's figure strove against them, stretching, reaching toward the light they created as if responding to their cries. A rush of warmth surged through them, creating an air thicker than blood, binding them together like iron. With renewed strength, they pushed forward, the encroaching darkness faltering with every step they took, trembling as it met their united front. Suddenly, a radiant beam shot from Lucy, directly into the heart of the shadows, illuminating them with a brilliance that felt like a warm embrace. The dark figure let out a guttural, anguished howl as its form twisted, contorting beneath the light. "Your time has come," Lucy declared, her voice reverberating through the chaos. The light surged forward, consuming darkness like a flame swallows moths. Shadows screamed, their cries dissolving like smoke in the air, finally breaking free as the remnants scattered like echoes of a forgotten nightmare. The air steadied, as silence fell like a blanket, warm and soothing. The oppressive weight that had clung to them dissipated, leaving only the lingering light of Lucy's spirit, now fully present and shimmering brilliantly before them. "Oh, thank you," Lucy breathed, tears brimming in her eyes, shimmering like stars. But they didn't just reflect the past, they shone with a promise of healing, of freedom. "You saved me. You saved all of us. How can we make this right?" Jake whispered, overwhelmed by the weight of their actions and the release that followed. "By setting my story free," Lucy replied, her gaze steady. "Our stories. You must carry the truth of this place and bring it back to those who need to hear it." "Then we will," Sarah vowed, her heart soaring under the weight of newfound hope. The shadows had retreated, but their stories, their histories, would remain. The spirits of those lost echoed through their minds, tales waiting to be shared and understood. "Thank you for easing our pain," the room echoed as Lucy stepped toward the light, her essence intertwining with the warmth of the vanished shadows. "Goodbye, Lucy," Emma whispered, her heart heavy yet light. "Thank you for everything." With a final flash of brilliance, Lucy merged with the light, leaving behind only a warm glow that enveloped the room in a golden haze. In the silence, it felt like the house was breathing new life, shedding its past and embracing the warmth of their love. They stepped outside, the air crisp and fresh, filled with light. They had confronted the darkness, broken the chains, and emerged not just as a family, but as storytellers, ready to share the truth with the world. Together, they walked back into the sun, hearts full of hope, knowing they'd keep Lucy's love alive. The weight of the house's secrets had lifted, leaving behind only memories, ones that would be honored and never forgotten. Now, as they took those first steps forward, it was a new beginning. Don't wait even one more second. You need to subscribe now for the next exclusive stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm and show your support for more thrilling adventures. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion and join this amazing community. Your involvement makes a huge difference.